Testimony in the impeachment trial of suspended Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton continued today.
The prosecution called a key witness today named Brandon Kammack, who was an attorney hired by Paxton. Kammack is named in, and his hiring is the subject of one of the articles of impeachment against the Attorney General.
KVUE's Ford Sanders is live outside the Senate chamber. And Ford, Kammack detailed how he was hired and the investigation he carried out into Nate Paul's claims.
That's right, Quita and Brian, and that really is significant because Paxton's actually accused of violating the law on how the AG's office hires an attorney and his hiring of Kammack. Now, at the time that he was brought on, Kammack had about 5 years of experience as an attorney. He told jurors he got a call from an unknown number telling him to apply for a job at the AG's office. And in an interview with General Paxton, Paxton told him Michael Wynn, Nate Paul's attorney, recommended him for the job. Kammack didn't have a relationship with Wynn, but he knew him because they both served on a volunteer board over in Houston. Kammack said Paxton told him he was bringing him in to investigate a case that his staff refused to look into.
He also said that the people in his office who were not, they weren't investigating the case. They weren't working on it. At that point I had learned that there were some federal agents and people, I guess, in positions of power who were kind of involved in that. And, he made a comment that you need to have some guts to work on a case like this. And I was fired up about the opportunity to do it.
Kammack says he kept Paxton informed on his plans of how to move forward with investigating, and Paxton signed off. But after serving 30 grand jury subpoenas, he was served a cease and desist letter from the AG's office. When Kammack asked to be paid, he was told there wasn't an employment contract for him on file with the AG's office. Shortly thereafter, Paxton called Kammack to Austin for another meeting. Rather than meeting in the office, he says Paxton and his team drove him to a nearby Starbucks to fire him without pay. Now, during the cross-examination, defense attorneys did pull up the article that actually named Brandon Kammack, asking him if Paxton committed any of those crimes, poking holes at some of the language that's actually outlined in that article. Prosecutors have also called some more witnesses today. They've called Attorney Joe Brown, as well as the president and CEO of Amplify Credit Union, Kendall Garrison. Now let's talk about Brown. Brown was also an attorney that was put up for the same role that was given to Kammack, but he ultimately was not hired. We're going to have more coming up tonight at 6. Live from the Texas State Capitol, Ford Sanders, KVUE News.
Thank you, Ford. And let's bring in KVUE's managing editor of political content, Ashley Godot, for some deep analysis on today's testimony.
All right, what about Kammack's testimony stood out today? He was on the stand for a while.
He was on the stand for a while, and all of it, frankly, was quite damning and standing out to us. Let's talk about the access that he had to Ken Paxton. He at one point, saying he was hired after he received this call from this unknown phone number, and then he goes into this meeting with Ken Paxton, and Paxton tells him who said he should get the job, and it was Michael Wynn, a man really unknown to him. They served on a board together, but Wynn was Nate Paul's personal attorney. But you heard Kammack talk about the fact that he ended up getting a separate phone number that he used, a separate phone, and that just Ken Paxton had his phone number, because whenever he would receive a call from Paxton, Paxton would not call him on his official phone number, but would call him from 2 different numbers, and he wanted to make sure he never missed a call from Ken Paxton. He also says Paxton asked him to download the Signal app, which is encrypted text messages, and that they emailed on the Proton email, which is this kind of secure email address. So that's really interesting. We also got some new details today, some new looks at just the depth of Nate Paul's sort of thoughts on this conspiracy into him, and this conspiracy that happened to him, and specifically that Nate Paul and his attorney told Kammack that they believe there was a federal court clerk who was now dead, who died under foul play. They thought that there was foul play in her death, and Kammack actually went to talk to her widower about what was going on. And that's what led U.S. Marshals to go to Kammack's office. My third big takeaway is that Starbucks, you heard Ford say fire. Tony Plahetsky and I like to call it the breakup, because he wasn't official. There was no employment contract for him on file. And the fact that Ken Paxton, someone who he had access to, someone who talked to him frequently on the phone, by email, in person, then did not even speak to him when they told him, we no longer need your services. And Brian and Quita, at that meeting, that is when Kamek said, well, what about my fee? What about my $14,000? And they told him, quote, you're going to have to eat it. You're going to have to eat that $14,000. That is what he says. Brent Webster, who at the time was the, Paxton's right-hand man, told him he was going to have to do. So certainly interesting takeaways today. Now let's pause for a moment to take a live look inside of the Senate chamber, where we see we're actually going to see another witness on the stand, but that's someone questioning from the prosecution there. We want to remind you, obviously, testimony is still happening. It's expected to last until at least 6:30 tonight. You can watch it all live on KVUE Plus. Just search for KVUE on Fire TV, Roku, or Apple TV. You can also find us on KVUE.com and the KVUE YouTube channel.